Welcome, everybody, to Peninsula Symphony All-Stars at home, and we have a true all-star with us. Peninsula Symphony audience members will remember Soyeon Kate Lee for her performance of Rachmaninoff's second piano concerto with Peninsula Symphony a couple of years back. Welcome. How are you today?
I am good. It's so great to see you, Mitch, and it's so great to connect with your audience via Zoom.
Well, yeah. We look forward to doing it in person. We'll talk about that later on, but it's great to actually have a human conversation with a real treasured colleague. We hit it off and just had a wonderful time with Rachmaninoff, and there'll be lots more of that to come as things start to look like
normal,
like they're opening up. Along those lines, and before we hear you play some Debussy, what does the immediate future look like for you? And what are the projects that that you hope will be developing over the next year?
Oh, well, this, as you know, we all missed Beethoven's anniversary collectively.
Right.
And, just this past December, we were asked to do a concert featuring the Beethoven Ninth Symphony transcription by Liszt for two pianos for the Library of Congress. And so we had learned this monumental beast of a transcription. And we were so afraid that it wasn't going to work out. But they ended up wanting us to record this concert in our hall, and then they presented it. And what we would really love to do is actually play this for a live audience.
And tell our audience that I have heard the recording, and it is titanic. It is astounding what Liszt did. In fact, transcriptions is going to be a continuing theme of this program because we've got Bach via Busoni, but the Beethoven Ninth is not a piece that's easy to imagine being played just on two pianos. But wow, it's our audience, I hope will have a chance to. This is on the Library of Congress website. Is that available for our audience to listen to?
Available. Yes, it will be there forever. And it was such a rewarding, titanic, like you said, just experience to record, to play. And we hope that even though our anniversary season is done, that we'll have an opportunity to present that in person. In the immediate future, some summer festivals are starting to open up in person. So I will be going back to some chamber music festivals that had been canceled. Then my husband and I are both going to the Bowdoin International Festival, where it's a mixture of playing and teaching. So knock on wood that everything will, progress with the vaccines.
It's looking very, very much more encouraging. We hope Peninsula Symphony will be back to performing in the fall as well, and trying to reprise a Beethoven program that we didn't get to do as well. What about Music by the Glass? This is a marvelous program that you have been doing in New York. Tell us about Music by the Glass, and we're hoping that will recommence.
Yeah, so Music by the Glass is our pet project that my husband and I started with a group of our friends in New York City. So when I say group of friends, these are friends that, we've known outside of our music circles. Lawyers, doctors, and bankers, and all
real people
we really wanted to bring to love music and who are our age and our generation. So with the help of our friends who own this beautiful gallery in Soho, the Mizell Gallery, they host us for every event, and we have a really social evening of music and wine and food. And, I think Liszt might be sort of this person who weaves in and out of this conversation today. But, I want to go back to the days of salons and music being intimate. And it was our way of creating that atmosphere in the 21st century. And so since COVID hit, of course, we had to cancel the concert that was scheduled for that March when everything was starting to look really strange. And since then, we've tried to stay connected with our audience, much like what you're doing with the Peninsula Symphony, with these musical postcards. We would just send out like a movement of a piece from home, every few weeks, just to say hi and hang in there, and we will meet again. And we're really hoping that this season, next season, the new season, things will be back and running.
The idea of pairing wines and music and food is a wonderful one. The Peninsula Symphony is planning a virtual gala this spring, in which we will be doing some musical performances and pairing those with wines and creating an evening around that. So I think it's a brilliant idea, and I guess we stole it from you. I don't know.
No, I mean, it's not a new idea. I think the only maybe newish thing is that our board is entirely made up of people our age, and we just love the energy behind it and the new audience that we're able to build with it.
So here's looking forward to making all those things happen and getting back to something like what we considered normal before. We'll talk some more about that, because I think we've all been changed a little bit by all of this. But in any case, we're going to start by having our audience get a chance to hear you play one of the Debussy preludes from Book 1, What the West Wind Has Seen. What would you like to tell us about this Debussy prelude?
Well, Debussy preludes, it follows the tradition of course, the Chopin preludes, in a sense that they became concert music, right? Unlike the preludes that used to be a prelude, literally, to a bigger piece. What's different is that it doesn't have a specific key scheme. These are written in 2 books, 12 of them in each book. And what's interesting about these is that each has a title, but he does not give the title in the very front or the beginning of the piece where you would expect it, but with an ellipsis at the end of each work. So it's, when you go hear it in a program, and maybe we shouldn't tell them what it is, because when you hear it in a program, I think Debussy wanted you not to be confined by that title, and to just sort of let the music speak to you. And then, as an afterthought, that's what I had in mind, or that's sort of the gist of the perfume of this music, if you will. So,
yes, and these pieces, unlike the Chopin preludes, are really very colorful and pictorial, and you can really let your imagination roam free.
Yeah.
So let's hear now Soyeon Kately performing from Book 1 of the Debussy preludes, What the West Wind Has Seen. Here we go. So that beautiful performance of Debussy Prelude, number 7 from the first book, What the West Wind Has Seen. Thank you for that. And I need to ask, before we get any further, what this last year has been like. What has the Cincinnati wind seen in your family's life?
Oh my goodness. What can I say? We have at home, now turned 3-year-old, but when it began, a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, and we couldn't go out anymore. We had to eat every meal at home. We had to scrub down like everybody else. The grocery was kind of an all-day extravaganza, just in terms of, cleaning everything, sanitizing everything.
Right.
And so we just thought, oh my goodness, we're never going to sleep. We had to practice in the wee hours of the night. I mean, just told you about that Beethoven ninth we had to put together. We literally rehearsed at 2 a.m. We would put the kids to sleep. We would have to wait until they were in their deep sleep, so that they, and so it's sort of upended our life, but it has forced us to slow down so much. And I feel like I didn't even realize that I was on a constant go mode since I don't even know when. It must have been my 20s, and I realized how much you miss when you're just doing that,
Right.
And
especially when you have young kids. We remember that you were just in the process of having your second child and introducing her to the world. Yeah. when you were with us, and we got to see you practicing with her. Yeah. And this is a crucial part of a young performer and a young woman's life. And so having those kids has certainly been intertwined with your music all along. But I do think that you and Ron have had a big advantage in this. You have each other, you have your pianos, you have your piano duos that you've been able to work on. So you do have, and you have the studio that you're talking to me from right now. Orchestral musicians, chamber musicians who were not able to get together were even more isolated than you. So I suspect that you created a pretty interesting and rich and 2 a.m. in the morning musical world in your household. What was?
You know what? I just remember it was about midnight, and we were rehearsing the third movement of the Beethoven Ninth Symphony, and I mean, I don't have to say how amazingly transcendent that music is, but we were sitting here at the dead of night, so quiet, and you hear the just slight noises from the outdoors, and I just felt like, wow, I am so lucky to be here and to be doing this. And I don't know, it has made me appreciate the things that I always knew I had. But, you look at it on a deeper level, even music, you're not just going from concert to concert, trying to prepare this repertoire, that concerto, you really get to sit and chew on it, for a long time without having this end goal in mind of getting on stage and playing. And so that's been also a different experience too. I also learned to cook. So that's my husband is very happy about that. Yeah.
So what do you cook?
I've learned to cook more Korean food than just fried rice, which was my own repertoire. We've turned actually vegetarian. So that was a big change because it takes a lot more preparation to just figure out what to make, how to make it, how to vary it, and so I've been making all kinds of stews with tofu and, I make all kinds of grand salads. I'll like with sunflower seeds, cake.
Well, I think, these things that have enriched our lives over the last year, cooking is certainly a big one, but also, hanging with our family. these are things we will not easily give up.
I think you're right. I don't think we're going to all go back to exactly where we were. I think we've all changed in some way.
Yeah.
And I think what we expect from work and workplaces, I mean, I was able to have so many Zoom guests who were in Europe and elsewhere, so I think the way we connect might be a little different.
Yeah. And yeah, also you as a couple are in a wonderful position, set up well for COVID. I mean, nobody's set up well for COVID, but with both of you teaching at Cincinnati College Conservatory and both of you having very active performing lives and enjoying performing as a duo, you were, and having the joy of having your kids be available to you more than when you're out on the road touring a lot.
Yeah.
I suspect is something that that you will really take a lot of sustenance from.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Yeah.
So we'll talk some more about all of that, but I'd like to move to another wonderful recording of yours that I've been enjoying, savoring over the last few days, the Bach-Busoni Chaconne, which we're about to hear. This is a piece of music that I know all too well in its original version with the Irving Klein International String Competition. I've just been listening to, I don't know, maybe 30 different versions of this over the last weeks and months. And I hear it in other competitions that I'm involved with. And of course, it's a standard of the performing repertoire as well. I did a listening club on the Chaconne about 3 or 4 months ago and listened to Shearing and Heifetz and who else did we have? A number of great violinists performing it and comparing it. So and it's the quintessential unaccompanied violin piece in the history of music. There's nothing like it. And I was not as familiar. It's been, many years, decades since I heard the Busoni transcription of this for piano. And hearing that was just so ear-opening, so extraordinary. And I know our audience is going to enjoy this immensely. It becomes a true, I mean, Busoni is such an extraordinary composer and transcriber, but it really becomes a piano piece.
Yeah. I have to say, I it speaks to the wonderful musician that you are, Mitch, that you're a string player, yet you're able to appreciate the Busoni transcription. I know, I mean that because, I'm always a little bit reluctant or hesitant to see what the string players will think of this, my violinist friends. And I think, with this particular transcription, I hope when you all listen to this, you don't, I would not like you to approach it as a violin piece. Exactly sort of what you said. It's a new experience. And taking, of course, the old form, but Busoni was famous for saying, well, how come when this whole art of transcriptions and arranging, it was become marginalized, in the early 20th century, he said, why are variations considered such serious works when you're altering the original form, when the original isn't? And of course, Saint-Saëns also said that too, that, what is an overture in an opera if not sort of, rearranging and transcribing all the themes. So it just speaks to your open mind. And I really do think it has a lot to offer as a piano piece. First of all, I'm so glad that I can be a part of this piece through this transcription. it has so many Lisztian moments just in terms of pure virtuosity. Of course, Busoni was really a true heir to Liszt. But I don't feel, at least I hope I didn't give that, because there is something so philosophical and deep about this piece that the essence of it, I hope, has not really changed. It's just the surroundings in how it's presented. It's kind of like taking a concert and putting it in a salon versus a concert hall, you know?
Yeah, I find that the overall arc of the piece remained very much the same, but the individual moment, because piano technique, and because in Busoni's transcription, it's powerful technical challenge.
Right.
Certain passages really sound amazingly pianistic and powerful on the piano, where they have a little different character on the violin. But the overall effect of 14 minutes of interweaving every possible imaginative variation on this bass line, and seeing the whole arc of that over all of that time is just breathtaking. It's breathtaking in a little different way, but it does have that same sense of exhausting of every possible imaginative variant of this thing. It's fabulous. It's just great. So I think it's a great piano piece. And we all know that it's a great violin piece. So at any rate, having said all that, let's listen now to Soyeon Kate Lee performing the Bach-Busoni Chaconne. Here we go. That was Soyeon Kate Lee performing the Bach-Busoni Chaconne, this extraordinary, breathtaking piece of music. What was it like to learn this piece, which is, I'm guessing, on the upper end of the technical challenge and intellectual challenge? Well, how did you approach recording and studying this piece?
Actually, this was one of my COVID returns, because I studied this when I was a student in New York, and it was striking to me how differently I am approaching it now, not too many, but many years later. And I find myself really trying. I think that comes from teaching, because when I was a student, I think I relied so much on my instincts, which I hope were good at the time. But that's what you do. I mean, you are also used to how other people play. You're of course influenced by your teacher and all of this. And I just wanted to come back to it on my own. I feel like ever since I started teaching, I take the score so much more seriously. I listen to the violinists playing this, and I try to develop for myself my own version of this piece, staying true to the authenticity of its essence, but trying to also, the technical challenges are quite daunting in this piece. And I think when I had approached it years ago, I just tried to nail it. I wanted things to be on time. I wanted it. And now I feel like, wow, this is such spacious music. Sometimes just the sonic, just breath of this needs time. Sometimes we need time emotionally to understand what just happened. And so I feel like in terms of just pacing, I felt much more, free to let the music be, instead of driving it forward all the time.
Yeah. And also, maybe we've been affected, maybe you were affected a little bit by our changing sense of time in these last 13 months. I think, we give ourselves a little more time. We have less urgency about what we do, even though, we're still pretty busy.
You're right. Yeah, it was a really fresh look for me. So fresh look at a different look of this old.
Right. Yeah, it's all about perspectives. And as a faculty member, as a piano teacher, now you studied with some great teachers, among whom is Jerome Lowenthal, who is a person who I've loved for a long time. Now that you're teaching, do you see that changes how you approach your own playing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's been the biggest. I don't practice as much as I used to when I was a student, obviously, because of kids and teaching, and I still practice. Don't worry. It's kind of strange because I'm able to be so much more efficient. When I have 3 hours, I can get so much more done than I used to be able to with 6 hours back when, and I think once again, when you are a teacher, you are forced to listen so acutely to everything and not let anything go. And I realized that, at least for me, I wasn't listening in that capacity, and now I really am listening all the time, 100%. And not only that, it's been very helpful for me, because I never want to tell a student, well, do it like this. I have to say, do it like this because these are the reasons. These are the musical reasons, the theoretical reasons. These are the stylistic reasons why this choice that you're making might not be the best choice. And I feel like in order for me to back up anything that I try to advise them, I have to be able to have clarity. I have to be able to verbalize it, and that's been a huge tool in my own learning. you know.
Yeah.
Not to mention, we have such a big repertoire that to have 16 students learning all kinds of different pieces, I'm learning all the time, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah. I've always felt that teaching was the best way for me to learn.
Yeah.
I always have to acquire new knowledge and new perspective to offer students. And also, as you say, you know, when you're listening so intently to the detail of what your student is doing,
Well, you better do it to yourself too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, we're going to get a chance to hear you play another Debussy prelude, this time from the other book, Book 2. I think the official title is Habanera, and it's called The Wine Gate. Tell us about this Debussy prelude that we're going to hear shortly.
Well, I mean, it's such an amazing piece, but the reason that I wanted to play it was that, you know, I won a competition in Spain in the early 2000s. And the best part of that prize was I had 3 very robust tours of Spain. And I got to visit the Alhambra during one of my concerts in Granada. And it, you know, this was before iPhones. Otherwise, I would not come back with any, you know, memory left or space in my phone. But I was blown away by the Alhambra Palace. And Debussy's inspiration came from, he'd never been there. And his inspiration came from Dufaya's postcard that he had sent to him with a photo of this wine gate from the Alhambra Palace. So I don't know, it has special meaning for me because I was so moved by that place. And it's amazing that he had never visited because it sounds like a Spanish composer wrote it. You know, he's so at home with this.
Well, and some of the best best Spanish music is
Ravel, of course, yes.
by French composers.
Yeah.
Ravel, Debussy, Bizet.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So it follows quite a tradition.
Yeah.
Let's now hear Soyeon Kate Lee performing Habanera, Book 2 of the Debussy Preludes, number 3, The Wine Gate. Here we go. Thank you, Soyeon, Kate Lee, for beautiful performances of Debussy and Bach-Busoni. It's just a joy to see you and to hear you play and to connect with you again. We're hoping that the next year will bring us back to something closer to normal, and that we get to see you perform with us and out here on the West Coast. It's going to be a difficult and strange ramp up, but what do you think the next year is going to look like?
For me or for all of us?
Yes.
Well, I hope the arts will be back, because we need it. I think if anything has been proven through COVID is that arts are essential and live performance is essential, and that we need to connect with one another. I mean, Zoom is wonderful, and this has been sort of a Band-Aid in a wound. And thank God for that. But I think that music thrives and lives when we're able to be moved in the same space together. Because I think what the isolation has taught us, the social distancing, is that we can't live like this. We can't be distanced from one another. We need to hug, we need to feel affection and enjoy great music together. So I'm very hopeful. And I know that your community and the wonderful people in the Peninsula Symphony and the family around it will be back and running. And
yeah, it's looking very encouraging. There's new protocols out for live performance indoors in California that are going to take a while to work out, but we'll be back. And I think we're preaching to the choir here. Everybody who's watching this has that experience of seeing you and other musicians perform, look at each other, listen to each other. What gets created live in that moment is like nothing else that we have in our lives. And I know that our audience is looking forward to being part of that again. And it's the other thing is, no matter how much work we do on our own, practicing, rehearsing, unless it's in front of a live audience, it's not really a completely fulfilling musical experience. It's telling Debussy's story or Bach's story to an audience. Reading it aloud to yourself or performing it in a practice room has wonderful rewards, but it's the communication with an audience that we value the most.
And we have feedback from that during a live concert that we wouldn't otherwise have. So I miss seeing you all, and I look forward to seeing you.
You bet.
That's
our most fervent hope for the immediate future, and I'm sure it's going to happen. What a pleasure to see you again, to hear you play, and to get a glimpse into the musical world that you have. Thanks so much for being with us. Thanks to our audience for watching this program today, and we'll see you very soon again for Peninsula Symphony AllStars at Home. Good night, and thanks, Soyeon, Kate Lee.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Want more content like this from Peninsula Symphony? Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the red subscribe button below and tap the alarm bell icon to get notified whenever a new video is uploaded. Thanks for watching.